Chapter 1 Zen, Hoshin, Enji, and Politics. Why do ideological movements end up resembling religions?
Political movements and religions often display strangely similar behaviors.
In sociology and political thought, this phenomenon is referred to as political religion or secular religion.
Politics is the endeavor of changing institution. Religion aims for the salvation of the soul.
Originally, these two should be entirely different domains.
However, when humans form groups and attempt to understand the world, both often share the same structure.
Religions have stories of salvation.
Political movements have stories of an ideal society.
Religions have faith, political movements have ideology. In religions, masters appear. In political movements, leaders appear. And both grant their supporters a powerful sense of community. Sociologists like Max Weber and Emile Durkheim pointed out this structure early on. What their research demonstrated is a simple fact. Human society cannot exist without a shared narrative of meaning.
As long as we are human, this remains true.
However, there is a decisive difference between politics and religion.
The victory of religion is the salvation of the soul, which cannot be measured from the outside.
Politics has elections, seats, and policies. Politics is always judged by reality. Results are produced. If it fails, it must be corrected. In other words, politics is essentially an ideology that is verified by reality. Yet, when a political movement is defeated, it sometimes undergoes a strange transformation. Instead of analyzing strategic failures, the correctness of the ideology begins to be emphasized. Belief takes precedence over results. At this moment, politics ceases to be politics and transforms into a community of faith. It is the moment when politics turns into religion, and here, an intriguing philosophy begins to emerge!
Dismantles the fixation of faith. In Zen, the very act of clinging to a correct answer becomes the problem. There is a famous koan that goes like this: does a dog have Buddha nature? According to Buddhist doctrine, there is only one answer, yes. However, the Zen master replied, "Moo, this moo is not a denial. It is a word meant to sever thought itself." Zen seeks to destroy not the doctrine, but the mind's attachment to concepts. Here, three world views emerge. to bring this perspective into the world of politics, it would likely manifest as the following attitude. Do not get drunk on your own justice. Do not absolutize the distinction between friend and foe, and continue to question. However, there is one more problem in politics that cannot be avoided.
A nation does not operate on systems alone. Founding myths, memories of revolution, memories of defeat, memories of death, legends of heroes. A society invariably shares some form of narrative. Politics is the management of institutions, but it is simultaneously the act of managing the narratives of society. From this perspective, the Chinese classical novel Hoshin Enji is a deeply symbolic story. Though this story depicts the collapse of the Yin dynasty and the establishment of the Zhou dynasty, it is not a mere historical novel. The generals and immortals defeated in battle are redistributed after death as gods. The losers do not simply vanish. They are given roles within a new order. In other words, what Hoshin Enji depicts is not war, but the myth of the reorganization of order. This is exactly why politics requires myth. When a society undergoes a massive transformation, people are never satisfied by institutional explanations alone. Why was this world born? Why is this order legitimate? To answer those questions, a larger narrative is required. Myth is the device used for that purpose. After all, humans are creatures that fundamentally do not want to spend their resources on the act of thinking. This structure does not appear only in ancient tales. Within modern politics, similar patterns occasionally emerge. A certain individual appears at the center of society and violently shakes the political narrative. However, that individual does not necessarily become the victor. In fact, if you look at history, there are many who are granted new roles only after their defeat. This brings to mind events that have recently occurred within Japanese politics.
It was the Tokyo gubernatorial election. In this election, Shinji Shimaru created a massive whirlwind. By fiercely criticizing existing politics, the media, and corrupt vested interests, he gathered immense support. However, the result of the election was defeat. Normally, This is where a political movement ends. But afterward, a new vision began to be spoken of. The path to rebirth.
This movement does not aim for the success of a single politician. Instead, it advocates for the political participation of ordinary citizens. It seeks to transform politics from a specialized profession into an activity within society.
Here, a familiar structure emerges. A figure defeated in an election is placed at the center of a new political narrative. It closely resembles the structure of Hoshinenji. The losers of the battle do not simply vanish. Rather, after their death, they are positioned as gods.
Defeat is not the end. It is a rearrangement of roles.
However, that rearrangement is not guaranteed to succeed. Myths can be born, but they can also collapse. Let us look at actual politics. After the Tokyo gubernatorial election, Ishimaru's political movement entered a new phase. But in the subsequent Metropolitan Assembly election, the path to rebirth experienced a historic, crushing defeat.
And then he stepped down as a representative. The charismatic center withdrew. The political movement attempts to shift from a single individual to an organization.
A major pivot in direction. Subsequently, the path to rebirth aims to become a democratic organization. Council systems, internal elections, and political participation by ordinary people. However, this attempt did not necessarily produce stable results. Defections continued, and the organization remained in flux.
At the same time, the phenomenon of the supporter community lingers on SNS groups strongly supporting Ishimaru do not cease their activities. When politics approaches myth, the behavior of supporters also changes. Internal conviction takes precedence over dialogue with the outside world.
As a result, the community begins to gradually lose its connection with the external reality. From charismatic politics to a democratic organization. That transition is not yet fully successful. In order to expand a political movement, charisma is necessary. But when charisma becomes too strong, the community begins to close itself off.
Myth gives birth to a community, but at the same time, it encloses that community, and when the myth collapses, people are forced to face the void. What should we believe in? Where should we go?
Only those questions remain. That is not a failure of politics. It is the moment the narrative peels away.
Humans fear that darkness. That is precisely why we desperately chase the afterimage of the charismatic leader. However, it is also out of that void that new politics can begin. After the old myth is broken, society begins once again to search for a narrative. Myth always carries danger. If the myth is too weak, society falls into nihilism. People lose their shared sense of meaning.
But if the myth is too strong, it becomes a religion.
A narrative is born that permits no doubt.
Here the perspective of Zen appears once more.
Zen does not deny the narrative, but it does not treat it as an absolute truth either.
Human society cannot exist without narratives.
But the moment we believe a narrative is the ultimate truth, our thinking stops.
That is a form of comfort, and at the same time, a danger.
Politics is the same. Systems alone cannot move society. Narratives alone make society precarious.
In the end, perhaps politics is the endeavor of standing between the system and the myth. And when that equilibrium is lost, politics either becomes a religion or falls into the void. History has swung that pendulum time and time again. That is why we have no choice but to keep questioning.
In what kind of narrative are we speaking about politics right now?
And do we have the courage to doubt that narrative? Or perhaps, is that courage truly necessary at all?
Why saviors begin to look like dictators. The Savonarola dilemma. Throughout history, political charisma has manifested time and again. Anger toward corrupt power, dissatisfaction with a stagnant society, and despair over a blocked political system. These emotions converge upon a single individual, and a hero is born. However, this story almost always meets the same end. First, they emerge as the hope of society. Then, the frenzy of supporters expands, and finally, that frenzy itself destroys the hero. There is one figure who symbolizes this structure most poignantly. The 15th century Florentine friar, Girolamo Savonarola. He criticized the corrupt ruling class with fierce language. He spoke of the decadence of power, the vanity of society, and the collapse of morality. His words gripped the hearts of the people and shook Florence to its core. But his movement gradually transformed. His followers began a campaign known as the Bonfire of the Vanities. Works of art, ornaments, books. They burned judged to be evil in the public square under the pretext of purifying society. They began to exclude differing values. Eventually, the people grew weary. A backlash against intolerance emerged. Savonarola transformed from a former hero into a dangerous figure destroying society. In the end, he was executed. The modern resonance, this structure is by no means limited to the Middle Ages. The same phenomenon occurs in modern society. The political movement of Shinji Ishimaru also displays parts of this structure. He verbalized the problems of local politics with high resolution. The dysfunction of assemblies, the structure, vested interest, the stagnation of political culture. The achievement of making these issues visible is undeniably significant. However, the power of those words produced a secondary effect. The frenzy of the supporters. In the space of SNS, a community supporting Ishimaru was formed. Yet, parts of that community began to
View criticism as the enemy.
exclude negative opinions, react as a collective against those with differing views. As a result, from the outside, the movement can sometimes appear less like a political campaign and more like a religious community.
The structure reveals itself once more. The actions of the supporters, rather than the words of Ishimaru himself, end up defining the impression of the movement in society. A charismatic leader is not a creator of ideology, but an apparatus that amplifies the desires of the supporters. This is a phenomenon repeated countless times throughout political history. The charismatic figure is a mirror reflecting the desires of society, and simultaneously an amplifier that expands those desires. And when the frenzy of the supporters crosses a critical threshold, the hero begins to be perceived not as a savior, When you look along into an abyss, the abyss also looks into you. When you think this far, you arrive at a single unpleasant conclusion. Politics will not save humanity. Charisma collapses, myths break, and communities repeat cycles of frenzy and exhaustion. History has performed this dance countless times, and most likely it will continue to do so. In fact, in this country, it seems we are merely prolonging our life by transforming despair into entertainment. Democracy, too, is not a system designed to save humanity. It is merely an apparatus to delay our self-destruction just a little longer. Therefore, there is no light in politics, at least not in this era. However, even so, humans continue to think after the myth has shattered. In the midst of the void, we still do not stop questioning. If 12,000 years from now, humanity is just a little wiser than it is today, the reason will surely be because someone in this era, even in the depths of despair, did not stop asking. It is not because there is no answer. It is because the moment you hold an answer, the religion begins again, and the abyss stares back 葉を